Guys, thank you today for being here at this special call meeting. Today is April the 1st, 2020. There's so many different things that's going on in our community. We just had a young man that was murdered in our community a couple of days ago. And this COVID-19 is affecting our community and the people that lives here. So I'm going to open up this today. I'm going to ask, I think I heard Commissioner Henderson. I'm going to go ahead and officially call this meeting to order, and then I'm going to ask him if he would to lead us in our invocation today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I just want to say concerning the young man who passed away in our community, as you stated, murdered. A couple of days after, another gentleman down off Jefferson Avenue ran on a four-wheeler, no helmet, ran head on into a vehicle, and he was deceased on the scene. So we just been kind of going through it here. They're here around the surrounding Nelson Heights community. But it went about it here. Dear Father God, we just come before thee. Just thank you for us, allowing us just to see another day. We ask that you keep and hold the bereaved family within your breast and comfort them and show them the way that you would have them to go. We just thank you. We realize there's nothing that we can say or nothing that we can do just to say thank you as much as you have done for us and all of us in our lives. And so we just thank you. We just thank you. And we love you. Just we pray. In our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Our thought for today is if you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. That's Napoleon Hill. Commissioners, you had an opportunity to look at the agenda today. I seek a motion that we approve this agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Schultz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. It passes 5-0. Guys, if you would, when you make a motion tonight, if you would, please just state your name so I know who, and the person taking minutes tonight will know who is actually talking as well. The first thing on the agenda tonight is discussion and consideration to the amendment of the COVID-19 ordinance. Mr. Curry, you want to lead us off?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I heard Sam Van Valkenburg with Gerard Davis on the line. Sam, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
If you would, Sam, maybe I would ask that you walk through these changes that were made to the ordinance, and obviously standing by to help answer any questions that might come
up. Okay. Just to briefly overview the changes that have been proposed, and I hope that you have received an updated copy of the order along with a red line showing the changes that were suggested. But they're basically 4 categories of changes. One is just to clean up some typos and other minor issues that were in the original order. The second is to adopt changes that were made by the City of Covington last Friday so that we have an order that is substantially consistent with theirs so as not to confuse the public. The third category of changes were made at the request of the Sheriff's Office to clarify that the Sheriff has authority to enforce the order and to clarify kind of the jurisdiction where we are hoping he will enforce it, that is the unincorporated areas of the county. And then finally, there were a few minor changes at the suggestion of Lloyd and I guess other staff to clarify a few aspects of it. So if you look at page 1, that consists almost entirely of just taking out sections that were kind of maybe relevant or accurate a couple weeks ago, but no longer are, talking about the number of cases and the number of deaths and those things. Changes made to page 2, continuing with all the whereas clauses. It's more of the same, just cleanup of outdated or inaccurate statistics. Getting into the substantive portions of the ordinance, in section 2, we are clarifying that this ordinance or this order applies to the unincorporated areas, and we expect the cities to adopt their own orders and enforce them within their jurisdictional limits. Moving down to section 5, this is an edit that was made by the city of Covington, in which we clarify that when an essential business stays open, it must post a sign instructing those present to observe social distancing requirements, 6 feet between people. Section 6 clarifies that parks will remain open, but playgrounds and play structures will not. That's to be consistent with Covington. Section 7 is to clarify that someone just driving through on an interstate will not be subject to the ordinance, and to clarify that if you work outside the county and your place of business is legally open in an adjoining county, you can go work there even if it's not an essential business as defined by our county ordinance or order. I'm going to skip over a couple, typo level clarifications and move down to section 12A4. That's also to clarify that you can leave the county to perform work in another jurisdiction, even if it's not an essential business under our ordinance. Moving down to section 12F, 19 through 23. These are new exceptions to the stay-at-home requirements. These are new essential services, or essential businesses, I should say. They include religious assemblies, businesses selling firearms, and outdoor recreation businesses. All of those were to be consistent with the city of Covington. And then I believe Lloyd had a really good suggestion to add funeral homes because it wasn't clear that those were essential businesses, although they ought to be. Moving down to section 14, there appear to have been some cites to the city code that did not seem accurate relating to alcohol excise taxes. Although if anyone disagrees, please let me know. Moving down to 15A, we are authorizing the sheriff's office to enforce the order. And we are suggesting that the sheriff's office refrain from arresting people for minor legal violations because he definitely has more important things to worry about. And finally, moving down to section 22, in the event that, and this may become moot given the governor's new order, but in the event that the city and the county desire to eventually make this into a joint resolution formally, that gives the attorney's office and the county clerk the ability to transform this into a joint resolution without changing any substantive provisions. And that's all.
Thank you, Sam. Guys, we're going to open it up for questions. You just state your name and let me know who want to go first.
Hey, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, this is Stan, Commissioner District 1.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, in section 6, our county-owned parks are open. I'm speaking specifically about Factory Bridge Park. Now, those trails leading to the river, around the river, beside the river, or what have you, those trails, the park will remain unlocked and the trails are usable as long as the social distancing is observed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, sir, that would be correct. This is Lloyd.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Lloyd, is factory shows not closed already?
No, sir. They are open to allow people to walk the trails and that sort of thing. But no, sir. They are open.
And Denny Dogs Park is open as well?
As far as I know, I'm not sure about the recreation department parks, but I could certainly find out for you. With this, it would mean it would be open and people could walk and pardon me, do other types of things. They just would not be able to congregate. But it would be under this provision. It would be open as well.
And Mr. Chair, this is Nancy Schultz.
Go ahead, Commissioner Schultz.
What about Lake Varner? Is Lake Varner open for pontoon boating? And is it, what about their boat docks?
Mr. Chairman, this is Lloyd. I can gladly answer that.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
It is, yes, it would also be open. What would not be open, and as a matter of fact, I believe they've already put up, pardon me, tape and all around the playgrounds and around the picnic pavilions that are down there. But it would be open for people who, there is a trail up there. You could fish off the dock. You could also use the lake to fish in, provided you keep the distance. You keep that 6 foot, you try to maintain that 6 foot distance between people.
Do we know, Lord, do we know, have we witnessed, have we got any kind of reports of how many people are actually using the trail at once? Is it a lot of people?
No, it's not a very heavily used facility. I'd be glad to try to get you a number, but I know just anecdotally that there's, any time that I have been to the park, it's always been in use, but very lightly or sparsely so. There are not crowds of people for either to walk the trail or to fish or boat out on the lake, or to use the lake to fish in.
Okay. I heard the commissioner trying to speak a while ago. I don't know who it was. Go ahead, Commissioner Mason.
This commissioner, yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to add, you had mentioned about Denny Dobbs. I know the rec department, they have taken down the basketball goals because it was a very heavily used basketball court. And so I think they wanted to prevent any activity on the basketball court. So the basketball goals have actually been taken down. So no one has been playing basketball. No one has actually been utilizing the playground as well. Since the playground has been closed, I have not really seen anybody even utilizing the pavilion. Now, I do still see individuals walking around using the sidewalks for exercise because Denny Dobbs is very heavily used for walking and exercising. So I do still see citizens doing that, but for the most part, that's all I see. And I have not observed anyone in any large groups. For the most part, you'll see individuals walking by themselves, or you may see a couple walking together, or you may see, a parent or parents possibly walking with their children, but not in any large groups at all. So I have observed at Denny Dobbs that it seems like everybody has kind of pretty much been maintaining their social distancing.
Okay. I just got a text from the rec director, Mr. Turner, and he said that they have took down the basketball goals at all their parks. So that's a good thing. Thank you, sir. Guys, any more questions for Sam?
Mr. Chairman, this is Nancy Schultz.
Go ahead, Commissioner Schultz.
So Sam, how will these changes, obviously we need these changes in place until Friday when the governor's orders take effect. At that time, the governor's orders would supersede any, like for example, if the governor defines essential businesses differently than how we define essential businesses, the governor's orders would supersede anything that we have. Is that correct?
That is an excellent question. To the extent there was a direct conflict with our order, his would supersede, but it's very possible, and I say this without having seen any proposed text, that he will insert a clause in his order saying local governments can go beyond what I'm doing. So I think we should definitely keep this until it's clear that we can't enforce any part of it because it's all been superseded. And then we can certainly provide some further guidance once the text of his order comes out, but there may be parts that remain in place of our order.
Because I think that the biggest challenge to all of us is the definition of essential businesses, because they are defined differently in different counties and different municipalities. And so, I know that ACCG issued a letter to the governor today to say, can you at least give us a framework for defining these essential businesses? I would suspect that in reading what he's proposing, he's going to issue the order tomorrow. He hasn't actually issued the order today. He was just giving notice that he's going to issue the order tomorrow, and then it would go into effect on Friday. So I suspect that a lot of the definition and a lot of the how the actual implementation is still yet to come.
This is Sam. I completely agree. I think once it comes out, we'll probably get on the phone with Covington's attorney and discuss a strategy for making whatever is on our books conform to what he has.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sam, I have a question. We got a lot of calls from churches asking, can they, if their pastor is preaching from the steps of the church, can they sit in their cars while he preach?
I certainly believe so. And if you look at section 12F 20, they could even congregate in religious assemblies because there is a federal law that really puts a strong burden or presumption on government not to interfere with religious assembly. We agreed with the city of Covington's decision to essentially let people congregate as they will, but we strongly encourage them to keep social distancing. So they could sit in their cars, they could even go into a building and assemble together.
Mr. Chair, this Commissioner.
Okay, give me one second. Let me clarify something. 1 second, let me clarify. So if the governor's order that 10 people max be in assembly, and we know what happened in Albany, how do that work for us?
Well, if the governor's order, I don't think. Hold on. So I had not considered the fact that there was a governor order prohibiting gatherings of more than 10 people. In that regard, the people would have to conform with the governor's order and not gather in greater than 10, numbers of 10 people, even though our order would allow them to gather in more than 10 people.
So Sam, if the governor's orders come out Friday or tomorrow, and it says no more than 10 people, do we need to come back and amend our ordinance?
I would recommend that, yes. Although, I mean, people won't be able to do that no matter what our ordinance says, because they would be violating state law.
Okay. All right, thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was actually just going to kind of ask a question and kind of add to what you were talking about when it comes to the assembling of the churches. Maybe Sam can answer this as well. If they were to be outside, I'm sure more than likely if they were to be in their cars or standing in their cars or whatever, there would have to be some type of sound system where everybody will be able to hear. And would that violate any type of noise ordinances that we have in place?
Potentially. I expect our noise ordinances have some sort of decibel threshold, so I think it would probably just depend on how loud they were.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lloyd.
Go ahead, Mr. Curry.
The noise ordinance is actually written very generally. I was surprised to find out that we actually don't have a decibel. It is really talks about, refers to unusual or unnecessary noises that are not customary to a type of activity, and one that could be heard from adjacent property that would be considered offensive by the adjacent property owner. So it's something that we need to take a look at. But as it stands right now, if you couldn't hear the sermon, if you will, from the neighboring property, then really they would not be in violation of the noise ordinance.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir, I did.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. Can I ask can I ask one other question while I have the floor?
Yeah, you sure can.
Thank you. I was going to ask, because we know that we have this ordinance in place until April the 7th. And I know some of our, what we consider as, we had talked about defining of essential services. And I know some of what we've considered as non-essential services will kind of be strenuous on them. And I'm primarily thinking of grooming businesses like barbershops, hair salons, things like that. I know for them staying longer than possibly 2 weeks can potentially be detriment for their business. Do we know if we will ever be able to classify, and I mentioned this to Lloyd, when we first started, did we classify, barbershops or hair salons as an essential service? And unfortunately, at that time, we didn't classify them as an essential service. So will barbershops or hair salons ever be considered as an essential service? And if they are defined eventually as an essential service, will we basically just have to go back into saying, okay, well, if it's going to be an essential service, then, we don't want to have more than maybe 10 people in the hair salon or the barbershop at that particular time. It can only be where they're not doing walk-ins, but everybody is actually doing appointments only, and they can't, allow, that barber or their hairstylist won't be able to allow anyone else in until that one client is actually completed or finished.
That's a great question, Commissioner Mason. I actually had that question wrote down, but that is a great question. I don't know who wanted to do that. Mr. Curry, either Sam?
Mr. Chairman, this is Lloyd. I think it really would depend on whether or not, once the governor assuming he makes a determination of what essential businesses are, then I would think you would want to take that into consideration. But I believe if he determines, this is a question I guess Sam would need to answer, if he determines they are non-essential businesses, and we decide that it's an essential business, would our ordinance then be considered, I guess it would be considered less restrictive than the governor's interpretation of the governor's order, and then that would mean that the beauty salons and the personal grooming type establishments would still be considered non-essential. Is that right?
This is Sam. Yes, it is highly unlikely we could exempt or call a business an essential business if it's not called that by the governor's order.
This is Nancy Schultz. I spoke with a group of hairdressers this afternoon because that's a lot of the people that are in my district. I have a lot of small businesses that are salons and barbershops. And their interpretation was that the governor's original order was prohibited, which was the 6-foot order. If they violated that, they would lose their license. So that's why they were choosing to shutter their business, because they didn't want to lose their license over the fact that they can't perform their duties within, they have to be closer than 6 feet.
Sam, I personally think that there's a way for them to operate. But what would happen? If the governor decided that he's going to close them down, also that means we pretty much have to follow that ordinance, right?
That's right.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. If I could make just a quick comment. You know, I understand that there's a lot of our citizens and a lot of businesses who have been kind of closed down and not making any money or little money as they normally would make. But we got to consider and look at what is going on in our community, not only in Newton County, but statewide, our country. And we're in a fight with an invisible disease that kills people, and it's spread easily, very easily. And the amount of bodies that are being reported, it's a lot of people, even though a lot of people, way more people have recovered. So I think any chance, we shouldn't be taking any chances. I mean, maybe we might be discomfort for a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months, you know. But I think the price that we're not willing to pay is for this virus to continue to spread at the alarming rate that it's being spread now. And I think we need to get the message out, because sooner or later, there's going to be a body count right here, a bigger body count right here in Newton. And whatever we can do to slow it down and stop it, we need to follow or do whatever we need to do. And I think right now, at this point, I think, you know, as far as me and my family, we're going to stay at home. We're going to wash our hands, or we're going to, when we go out, we're going to put some masks on and stay 10 feet. You know, take it a little step, couple steps further, 10 feet, because we got too much to stay here, and too many people will be put at risk. It's just because of socializing that we normally do. So whatever it is we need to do, we need to do it. If it's not going without a haircut for 2 months, hey, I'm willing to grow mine out long. That probably look kind of bad. Or whatever it is, we need to do it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Guys, as you know, Rockdale has reported 2 people. I got to excuse me. 2 people that have lost their life because of this virus. Got to keep that in mind. So, you know, Commissioner Henderson, I do understand what you're saying. We definitely got to keep that in mind. Also, Sam, I got a couple of more questions. So the school teachers, they've been driving through different neighborhoods, different subdivisions, and waving and blowing at their students. They're not stopping to engage them or their parents. They're just going through, blowing the horn and trying to put a smile on the kid's face. That's what was relayed to me. Is that something that they can do, or that they can continue to do? They stop because of ordinance, but they want to start back doing it. You there, Sam?
Yes, I'm pondering that interesting fact hypothetical. You know, to be quite honest, I don't think that what they are doing is an essential activity that technically is something that they can leave the house to do. On the other hand, as a practical matter, I don't think they would be cited by a sheriff's deputy for doing that, unless they were really causing a disturbance. And to put that in a broader context, I find it unlikely that a individual who is going out and about to do something that is not an essential activity is likely to be enforced. The sheriff might talk to them, but I don't think I think businesses and not individuals are going to be the target of enforcement by and large.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Guys, any more questions for Sam on this matter? If it's not, I seek a motion of approval, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Cowan. I make a motion to approve.
Second, this is Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, guys. It's been motioned by Commissioner Coward and second by Commissioner Mason. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Cowan, yes.
Commissioner JC, yes.
Commissioner Schultz, yes.
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Edwards, yes.
Thank you, guys. It passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is discussion consideration of partnering with the Newton County School Board and Action Ministries. Guys, as you know, something me and Commissioner Edwards had talked about. And I asked him, did he want to go ahead and try to move forward with doing it? And he was in favor of doing it. As you know, there are so many kids in our community that depended on school lunches for their meal at school and at home. And now that they are out, and the governor has now ended the time for the remainder of the year, I think that we as a board, as a commission, as a county, need to try to help out as much as we possibly can with those kids. And I asked Mr. Curry if he could find the money to partner with them. And he said he could. And I just want to get your thoughts on it.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Edwards. Just one, as you stated, you and I spoke about this yesterday, and you've heard me at several commissioner meetings state my concern for the children of our community when there's no, and the fact that the school provides at least 2 square meals 5 days a week for those children. So I'm definitely in favor of finding some money. I know you and I talked about an amount, but I'm willing to up that to, I'm suggesting 10,000 to help our school system. And I'm also gonna, with that, I'll also challenge the community. I know there's a lot of people on this call from our community. I will challenge the community to reach out to Action Ministries and see what you can do to help. My wife is a teacher, and she sees firsthand exactly what some of these kids have and don't have, and they can't wait to get back to school on Monday from a weekend to have a meal. So I will challenge our community, and my suggestion is for 10,000 from this board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I would like to say something.
Commissioner Henderson, go ahead.
Well, thank you. Nelson Heights, we over here in our community, we have been participating in this program, I think, for the last two to 3 weeks, however long it's been going. And one of the things that from my observation, for the kind of being hands-on, opening the building, make sure the place is sterilized, and make sure the restroom, is like it's supposed to be, and and to make sure that they use the side of the road and give away meals. But so part of the problem is getting the meals to the kids. One day it rains, and you can't really get that meal to per se that child. One day they might have several volunteers, and the next day, like today, they only had just one. And and I took the time out to use the community van and take the meals to kids home. And so I guess what I'm saying is 2 things to this, I think. First thing is the meal, make sure the food is there. And the second part to it is making sure that that meal that you provide for them get to the child. Similar to senior services, they make sure that every person of age who go senior service or apply for the meal, they have someone to take it to them. I think that's kind of where some of the kids, the place where some of our kids are at, is getting those meals to those kids. And then you talking about breakfast, and then you talking about lunch. So the question then becomes, do you take breakfast to them and then come back here and lunch? So what I think what they have been doing is giving both breakfast and lunch at probably at 12. So I think that's something that I guess the school system or whomever is supplying the monies and funds need to take under consideration instead of making sure that meal get to that particular child. And they probably need a list too as well. So anyway, so that was just from what I've seen from straight, just being out there and then your social distance. That's two guys taking place too. So, it's a whole lot of stuff that goes into at the time that we're in today in the feeding the child. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Nancy Schultz. This is Nancy Schultz.
Go ahead, Commissioner Schultz.
So I will pick up the baton where Commissioner Henderson left off, and I will say that a lot of the children in District 3 and in District 2 have not, at least that I know of, a lot of the, there haven't been as many locations in those in that area, and I would assume in District 1 as well, because on several occasions Action Ministries has called me because exactly what Mr. Henderson said happened. The kids couldn't get to the meals, and so the Action Ministries had leftover meals that they didn't want to go bad. So I went over there and picked them up, and then I would distribute them to some of my district. And so I do believe that if we're going to up the money, which I think that now that we're talking about the whole year, the rest of the school year, we need to see if there is a way in which the school system can deliver those meals via the bus stops. Because, for example, in some of my neighborhoods, there's no transportation to get to the locations where the food is distributed. So, like say, for example, on Salem Road, where wagon train bus stop or wagon wheel bus stop is, and then Newton High School, well, we don't have any sidewalks for the families to walk to these locations, and so they just can't get there. A lot of people in my district don't have cars, believe it or not. I mean, it's like I've been surprised at how we've talked about this before, the lack of transportation. So I don't want to step on the school boards. I mean, because they've made a valiant effort to try and serve the community. But if we're going to step in and offer more money, that maybe we could look at asking them to look at the Gwinnett system, where they actually deliver to all the bus stops. So just a food for thought. I didn't mean that to be a pun, but I certainly support us appropriating $10,000. And, I know that I've been, last week especially, I was very involved with helping to distribute the food. I also think that we've got to look at, we still have a large percentage of our seniors that were in daycare settings that are now at home, and they don't have the Meals on Wheels. So that is another area that we need to really address, making sure that our seniors are getting meals. That's all.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to visit Miss Frida tomorrow over at our office and just see how things are going with the seniors. But I do got a question. The thing about how is Gwinnett doing that? Because without having a large gathering of people at the bus stops, kids.
That's a really good question, because they have a shelter-in-place order for the countywide. So I can reach out to Gwinnett County and find out how they're doing it there as well. But I certainly don't want to, I don't want us to supersede what the school system is doing. I'm just saying if we're going to add more money, perhaps we need to say, like, let's add locations as part of that money, as part of that additional money, because it's hard for these to get it to some of these kids. And on a rainy day, they don't come to get it. And then the food goes wasted.
Well, I think we can. I think I can meet with Superintendent Fury, Samantha, and to make sure that there are if the county partners with them, and now we're looking at more than we're looking at now. Them being out the rest of the school year, remainder of the year. If the county partner with them, can she ensure me that there will be bus routes put in place, different stops or something like that? But we can definitely probably, I'm sure we can work that part out.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that's Commissioner Mason.
Go ahead, Commissioner Mason.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to say that, of course, I am in support of that because, of course, my wife just notified me that she received notification that the kids are going to be out for the rest of the school year. And so I know I'm having to keep my refrigerator stocked because my kids are at home. And so I know that there are definitely going to be some students that, do rely on, that breakfast and that lunch. During the school year, they will go without. And so I think it would be a great idea for us to do our best to try to partner with the school board, to find money somewhere, somehow to be able to help assist with that. And then once again, like Commissioner Schultz was saying, and Commissioner Henderson, let's find a way of how we can possibly deliver them. I don't know if we've spoken to the school board, if they have any ideas, or were they just in expectation of ensuring that everyone will be able to get to whatever selected locations. So that may be something that we may need to talk in detail to figure out how we're going to get them to the children. I don't know if they're even allowing the school buses to operate. I don't know if that's an option. It would be too much to continue to allow those school buses to run in the specific areas where it's needed. And maybe they be able to kind of help distribute it. I know I'm definitely open in whatever capacity I can to kind of help distribute if I need to as well, to ensure that those children have what they need for that as well. So I just wanted you to put it out there that I do support it as well. We just want to figure out a strategic way on how we can ensure that they do get them and not having any leftover food.
Thank you, sir. I do want to let you guys know that I spoke with Ms. Moore today of Action Ministries, and they are super excited about the county partnering with them and trying to help in his cause. I am 100% sure that we can get something worked out to make sure these kids do get the meals that they need. Anyone else? I thought I heard someone else.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Cowan. I just want to say I support exactly what Stan is proposing and the amount.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Curry, you have anything? I'm sorry, who was that?
JC, could I add one other thing?
Go ahead, Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. I'm sorry for interrupting you. The other thing I want to add is anyway, during your consultation with Ms. Furry, the superintendent, think in terms of a number, whereas if they could get it out, if we could get it out to the family, whether it be a child, family, school age, or a senior, who is hungry or who needs those meals, they can contact you and possibly somebody would could deliver them. That was all I just wanted to add.
I definitely can answer that question. That's a good question.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Kerr, you have anything?
No, sir. I don't have anything on that.
Well, I need that in the form of a motion. You guys want to make it?
So moved.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Stan, Edwards, District 1. So you're looking for a motion to in exactly in the terms I originally stated?
There's I think Commissioner Henderson already proposed a motion, but we need to come back and make sure we got the dollar amount in there, and that we got a dollar amount in there. Commissioner Henderson, I don't know if you want to restate that with the dollar amount.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that to approve with no more than $10,000, and with the understand that you're going to talk with Ms. Fury, the superintendent of Newton County, about the way we want to assist them in the funding or co-funding of bills for our children.
Thank you, sir. Can I get someone to second?
Second, Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, sir. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, this is Commissioner Edwards.
Yes, sir.
Also, keep in mind, I'm texting with someone in the know right now that the nonprofits and the school system, not that it matters, it's irrelevant to me at this very moment, but the nonprofits and the school system, and maybe even we as a county may be able to apply for reimbursement under the president's current declaration. So just keep that in mind too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else got any more discussion? All in favor?
Commissioner Cowan, yes.
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Schultz, yes.
Commissioner Edwards, yes.
Thank you. It passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Mr. Kerr, anything else?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Kerr. Guys, we need to amend the agenda, if y'all don't mind. Can we amend the agenda right quick? I want to take chairman's privilege tonight, and we want to discuss how long do we want to be doing this shutdown as our government. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kerr. Mr. Kerr, you want to go ahead now?
Pardon me. Yes, sir. Well, as you all know, this is set, currently it's set to expire on the 7th. So I thought you may want to discuss whether or not you want to extend it at this time. It may be contingent upon, it may be that you would like to wait until the governor issues his order tomorrow, but certainly that is a consideration since we're close to this time closing out. In addition to that, then would be whether or not you would want to cancel this upcoming BOC meeting that's also scheduled for next Tuesday. We had some discussion about it in an earlier meeting, but it did not become part of the motion whether to postpone it or whether to cancel it and just have one meeting in April, that being the meeting on the 21st, or whether to postpone it and reschedule it for the decision was ever made on that. But But since the date does run out, currently slated to run out on the 7th, you may want to consider or begin your considerations whether or not you would want to extend the shelter-in-place order.
Thank you, Mr. Kerr. Mr. Kerr, also, do you want to update us on what the city is doing in the community?
Oh, sure. I'll be glad to. I spoke with the city managers, or got in contact with the city managers in Porterdale, Oxford, and city of Covington today. I was able to touch base with them. The city of Covington, the city manager there indicated that he thought that the mayor and the council would vote to extend the, pardon me, that they would probably vote to extend the deadline possibly another 2 weeks. Oxford is currently, I believe their order is set to expire on the 20th. And then with the city of Porterdale, they were looking at their deadline being the 25th or the 26th of this month. So it appears that at least some of the other cities were considering going beyond this initial April 7th date that we also have in our in our order. So that's where they stand. They have not taken those actions yet, but that's what was anticipated by their city managers.
Thank you, sir. Guys, the floor is open.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Edwards. I guess if the governor's declaration supersedes ours, which it does, and his is the minimum set, right? His is the minimum. So would we have a need for a local declaration after the governor's kicks in? I don't know. I haven't seen the two side by side. So we would only need a declaration if ours was going to be more stringent than the governor's. Am I wrong or in that?
I would say you're correct in that. The question would be whether or not, it does boil down to the details of his order. And if that's not going to be released till the morning, then it may be prudent to wait to see what that says. And then, we could, if we needed to, we could have another call-in meeting to discuss the issue or to change hours to meet his or, pardon me, but it would really depend on what his order says.
Mr. Chairman, this is District 1 again.
Go ahead, Commissioner Commissioner Edwards, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with what county manager just had to say, why wouldn't we want to meet? We wouldn't want to do it on the 7th, right? It's set to expire the 7th, but why wouldn't we want to meet on the 6th and discuss? That gives us 24 hours to amend or push out, or even decide if we need a local declaration if the governor's is stringent enough. If we feel the governor's is stringent enough, so why I would suggest a meeting on Monday. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, this is Nancy Schultz.
Go ahead, Commissioner Schultz.
So our current ordinance expires on April the 7th, and the governor's potential order expires after Easter. And I think that based on the way that we have our ordinance written, it would significantly impact Easter services. And so I would prefer to wait until we know exactly what the governor's order says, before we extend our order because of the significant impact to Easter services.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Cowan.
Go ahead, sir.
I've been following what's going on with this COVID-19 more than I probably really want to, but, you know, I'm just not optimistic of things right now, and I hate to be a naysayer or anything, but I really think we need to consider moving it to beyond the 7th to at least the 14th or the 21st for right now. The numbers just are really kind of staggering right now, and Newton County's numbers are going up. We're not going up significantly, but we are going up, and we haven't reached the peak yet. But I think from hearing what the White House is saying, the doctor that's presenting that, we really need to stay practice this social distancing for a while. So I'm fine with what to see what the governor's order is, but realistically, I think we're going to have to be prepared to extend this thing for a little while longer.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
This is Sam. I just for purposes of scheduling your next meeting or taking action, I want to point out that this new order expires at midnight at the end of April 8th.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Henderson.
Go ahead, Commissioner Henderson.
I was just listening with fellow commissioners, and I think that thus far we've been following the lead of the governor, and rightfully so, because the fact is that he is our governor, and and because I know him or have known him real well before he became governor. I think that we have got to be kind of working together from the state level down to the local levels, down to the cities and down to the towns. And so and I think that the more we all work together, the more the people, the citizens, will kind of rally with us and are working, trying to, working together. So if what he said is start, to the 8th, then maybe possibly you could call a meeting or whatever, and so we can all just kind of continue to be on the same page as with the governor. Because if my memory serves me right, I think Commissioner Elwood said it. He was right on this. He said that the governor's orders supersede the local level. And so, we could change what we want to. Still, it was, and the bottom line was the governor. So I think we need to kind of just listen and follow him kind of as close as we can. And hopefully we all be past this the next 1 to 2 months. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we had 3 commissioners already that said they want to wait until the governor. I don't know if Commissioner Mason, you got anything you want to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Child. I was just going to say I concur, and I agree that we probably should wait to see what the governor is going to say. And I may have missed this, but did we state, or was it stated when the governor was going to make his announcement on what the next steps are, or what his next plans are? I think I may have missed that.
I think his announcement should be coming out tomorrow.
Okay. So yes, I agree that, we can wait, see what happens tomorrow, see what he says, and then kind of base our decision around, what his suggestions are, what his recommendations are. So I think that would be great, that we can definitely work with the state as well. So I
agree.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lloyd. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Kerr.
Just want to make sure we had we answered the question of whether or not we were going to have a regular BOC meeting, not necessarily in the board chambers, but a meeting to conduct our regular business via Zoom as we're conducting this meeting. Would we have that on the 7th, or is that meeting, is it the board's desire to cancel that meeting?
Well, we're gonna have to meet anyway, depending on what the governor comes back with. So,
okay.
I think we go ahead with our regular scheduled meeting. I know there was some talk about it at our last board meeting.
Right.
I personally thought that we had changed the meeting date, but don't nobody remember that but me, I guess.
Well, I do recall the conversation, but in reviewing the minutes, I did not see where it made that it was made into a motion or made as a part of a motion or included in a motion. So I wanted to get some clarification on that, so that we need to do all of our, make sure that there's ample notification and all for the public.
Okay, guys, do y'all want to meet next Tuesday?
Commissioner Edwards, yes.
Okay.
This Commissioner Mason, I think, yes, we should via Zoom.
Commissioner Schultz,
Okay.
yes.
Commissioner Cowan, yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Hilton, yes.
Thank you, guys. So we will have our regular board meeting next Tuesday, and guys, we have an opportunity to look at the things that the governor has put in place as well, and we can proceed forward. Also tonight, I had the wrong agenda. I have a whole agenda. I want to go back to item number 4 on the agenda, which is discussion and consideration of the sheriff request for funding for COVID-19 special operations needs. Mr. Kerr, the sheriff is on the line, and I think he would like to kick it off.
Sure, that's
Sheriff,
fine with me.
are you there? Sheriff, if you can hit *6 and unmute your line.
Okay, I got it. I would say good evening to everyone. And can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we got you.
Okay. Just for information purpose, I heard Commissioner Edwards speaking about the declaration the President put in place. It's $2.2 trillion, and it's the Paycheck Protection Plan, and I think a lot that has been mentioned is covered under that, as well as what we are requesting is covered under that as well. I sent out a proposal early on in the week, and then I got a correspondence back from Mr. Kerr on yesterday. And the correspondence that he sent, as all of you aware, they cut significantly what we had requested. However, I made some notations in my response to the board in terms of what was not in there. And I guess my question is did the board and everyone read that to understand my concerns as it relate to the Board of Education funding? And I guess, Mr. Kerr, where do we stand with that?
Well, and you may not have received my revised, when Brandy sent me that information, my response was based on some misinformation that I had. So I sent a revised recommendation, and that was to include the 91,000 for the SRO officers. So that total, the only thing that was left out of your request was the 160,000 for the nurses for a year's nursing contract. But I did leave in money, 13,000 per month, duration of the of this, whatever the duration is of the shelter-in-place order, so that you could get the nursing assistance you need at least during this duration. And then if you needed beyond that, then that could be something that we would try to work into the budget for this next year. But so the only thing that's missing out of your request, you had 160,000 for the nursing, you had a little over 90,000 for the SRO. There was additional money that was requested for gasoline or gas and fuel and repairs and all the vehicles, overtime for your patrol units, overtime. Also, there were some requests for items in the detention center, all of which there was no objection to or anything to any of that. The only thing that that I really that I was concerned about was the request for the money for a year's worth of a year contract for the nursing support. And not to say that that's not necessary, but we were looking at simply those extra above and beyond the normal expenses that you would have. And those expenses would be contributed to the COVID-19 response. And so beyond that period, the request was just for that period, but it wasn't for beyond that. And that's why that was instead of the entire 160, it was for the 13,000 per month, which was what you had estimated, pardon me, the cost to be.
Okay, and I guess my only concern, and I guess I needed to just clear this up. Now, the monies that the funding for the school resource officers, are we pulling it from the BOE budget, or are we pulling it from the BOC?
No, all of the funding would be held, the way we would do this, all of the funding would have to come out of our contingency. So what we would do is would be to set aside, there's a total of $164,685. And so that money, then that would be the expenses per month that we were looking at. So we would set that money aside, and then as those expenses were incurred, we would pay for all of those expenses. And then when we went at the year-end closeout, we would transfer all of the funds from the whatever's necessary from the contingency to your budget to show that the money came in order to help to so that your budget would not be out of balance, and then those funds would be coming from the BOC contingency.
Okay, and thank you. And the reason why I inserted the nurse in there, I think we broke it out in terms of the cost per month. So I just gave you an overall figure of what it would cost a year, but we was specifically looking at during the time of this pandemic as far as the board to support, and we would have the other in the contract for the upcoming year.
Sure. Yeah, and that's what we did. That's what we set out in there was for, if it runs for a month, it's 100, we would be looking at that 164 number. If it's 2 months, then that double, 320 and so on. And so we would continue to fund whatever those expenses are above and beyond your normal stuff. Anything that's related to the COVID-19 response, that would be.
Okay. And just for clarity, I would expect that we're tracking 3 weeks back is where we would start.
Yeah, if you have, yeah, as long as, I would say on this, because we're going to try to get the, part of this is also tied to FEMA reimbursement. If you can fill out, give us all of the, or do the FEMA project worksheets, and actually we put together a spreadsheet today from finance, that, so that you could fill out, you could, identify all of those funds, any of the activity that your deputies or the SROs were doing, or anybody, your detention officers, whoever, anything that was related directly to that, you just have to show that. We need to show that connection, and then we can backdate it to, you know, whatever was being done at the time, if there's been any, whatever enforcement may have been done at the time we initially put this in place, or if there's medical costs, like you mentioned about personal protective equipment, I think, those kinds of things, yeah, we could, you know, obviously they would go back to when we started using those more than what we were.
Anything else, Sheriff?
That's it. I guess I need to receive. You said you emailed it out to me, Lloyd?
I can, yes, sir, sure. Yeah, well, yeah, I did. I mean, actually, I did respond to, I sent the response, pardon me, the response out, pardon me, this afternoon. And it went to you as well as to your aide, Brandy Burke. But yeah, it went out this afternoon. It was about 4:30 or so.
Okay, I thank you. And only other thing I would ask is that at some point that I would like to receive a copy of whatever is being put together for enforcement, the ordinance.
Yeah, yesterday, you should have received a copy of that as well. I had Waka email those to your office, email you a copy of that too. If you haven't, we'll be glad to send you another one.
Okay, we thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kerr, anything else you want to give to the commissioners before we go into, before they start asking their questions?
Pardon me. No, sir, I don't think so. I think that pretty well recaps what, and the sheriff explained, you know, on his request, but I'll be glad to answer questions. I don't really have anything else to add to that, but I'll be glad to answer questions. Sure.
Thank you, sir. Guys, any questions tonight?
Mr. Chairman, District 1.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, thank you for being on. Hey, I looked at your email and the correspondence between you guys and Lloyd. So what about the COVID-19 has driven the demand for law enforcement? I mean, what are they having to do that they wouldn't have to do if there was no absent a virus?
Well, one of the things that we're doing, Commissioner, you have put in place a shelter in place or an ordinance last week, and we've been more visible. We're having to change our strategy in answering calls. There are a number of factors, and particularly the jail itself has changed tremendously. We're creating more staff to minimize exposure of the COVID-19 in the jail.
I'm sorry, Sheriff. You can't get in. Can you say that again, please?
Yes. Starting in the jail, we're having to use officers in various areas here in the jail. One is we taking officers, turning them into cleaning staff because we cannot allow inmates to come out and conduct the cleaning. We're having officers to stand and act as, I would assume, nurse practitioners or whatever, because they're having to check the temperature of each and every last one of the officers who's coming in and going, or even if we would have an arrestee coming in. We are creating a lot of overtime there in terms of uniform division. The uniform division has, we've had to change a lot of our methods in patrolling. You put the ordinance in place, we're being more visible in the communities to ensure that we're there to be seen.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Okay. I think I heard Commissioner Schultz as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Sheriff. Lloyd, I do have a question. You mentioned that we would be completing documentation for potential FEMA reimbursement. In the interim, where is the money? How are we going to access the money? Because we know that FEMA takes sometimes 1 to 2 years to get back.
Well, what we'll do is, as I said, we will be using contingency dollars to cover the expenses. And, you know, then once we submit all of our project worksheets and all of the information to FEMA for reimbursement, then we would simply have to wait on the reimbursement. It may take some time, but the money will be coming out of the FY20's contingency.
And how much do we, okay, so we're looking at the 164,000, 167,000 a month. Is that what it was, what your final email said this afternoon?
Right.
And so what is our, how much is in contingency right now?
Currently, we have 271,000 in contingency. If this were to, if this were to continue, and all of those that there's nothing else currently that we are anticipating to use that money for. So if we were to use that money up, then we would need to look at our cash reserve in order to continue funding the needs of the sheriff until that this, until the COVID-19 crisis, if you will, were over, or I guess until we really lifted at least until we lifted the shelter in place. I know there'll be a considerable expense in enforcement on that, and so, but once that's lifted, then we will reevaluate everything. But if the money runs out, the next source of funding will be our cash reserve.
So the current source of funding would be GEMA or FEMA? I mean, the current source of funding would be a contingency, but the applications that you're making are GEMA or FEMA, or both?
GEMA has not indicated, has not committed yet, but FEMA has committed to certain eligible expenses at a reimbursement rate of 75%. GEMA usually follows with a 10% commitment. So potentially we could receive 85% of the funding that, or the expenses in reimbursements from the state and federal emergency management agencies.
Well, I would hope if the governor is going to issue a statewide shelter in place that, and we always know how those state mandates come unfunded, but it would be hopeful that there would be some funding source that would come with that as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, sir.
Just one addition. When I was talking to Commissioner Edwards concerning some of the extra things that we're doing. We have to open up a separate pod just for quarantine measures here, so that therefore we're having to have officers to work a designated unit and not to commingle themselves with other units just in case if there's an outbreak with the officers.
Okay.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you. Anyone else want to make comment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Mason.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to just get clarification from Lloyd because I was looking at the actual amount, and I know in the email it's saying, because I'm seeing two different amounts. I know, Lloyd, you mentioned the $91,352.09, and then you also mentioned the $164,685.09. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out, what are we actually giving each month? What are we setting aside each month? I just want to get clarity on those two figures.
The initial email showed a figure of $73,333, and that was because I had not included the SRO salaries. And when you include those salaries, $91,352, then that revision comes to, that's where you get the 164. You add the two of those together, and that gives you the 164. So $164,685 will be the amount that we'll be setting aside per month to cover these expenses. And that obviously is an estimate. If for some reason that would take that. There may be occasion that they would need a little bit more than that 1 month or a month or more, then obviously we'd have to make adjustments. But these are based on the best guesstimates that the sheriff has at this point.
Okay, so the 91,000 was your initial calculation, but then when you went back, you had to correct that and move it up to the 164.
Yes, well, I had originally, the original email that I sent to him in response to the request was that the funding, I had not included the $91,000 in salary to the SROs. That figure without that salary was 73. So then I went back and added the 91,000, and that's how I got the 164. Okay, so the initial 73, I added these SRO salaries in, that's 91 for a total of 160.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Well, I seek a motion then. Do you want Megan to put this motion in order, or do you want to state this motion?
Well, I mean, the motion I think would be to set aside the $164,685.09 per month for the duration of the shelter-in-place order, and those funds would be set aside to help offset the additional costs in the sheriff's office of the sheriff and in the detention center.
Anyone want to make that motion tonight?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Henderson.
Yes,
so moved, stated by the county manager.
Thank you, sir. Can I get a second, please?
I second this, Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, sir. It's been a motion been made by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Mason. Any more discussion? All in favor?
This is Commissioner Mason.
Aye, Commissioner Schultz.
Aye, Commissioner Henderson.
Commissioner Cowan, yes.
Commissioner Edwards is a no.
I'm sorry?
Commissioner Edwards is a no.
Thank you, sir. It passes 4-1. Commissioner comments tonight. Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'll try to be brief. Any declaration that we or the governor or the president puts in place is, as I stated last week, is only as good as the number of people that abide by that declaration. We have to stay home. We can't legislate what is right. We have to stay home, with the exception of going to our jobs, to the store, and to the doctor, and to the other allowable exceptions. We have to stay home, and with that, I believe in the end, we'll look back and we'll understand that the government the government was not our rescue. It'll be the individuals, it'll be the organizations, the community partners from our county that I think we'll look back and say that we say will save the day. I can tell you, I told the chairman, I believe yesterday, that I'm not sure where we would be right now with this virus if our churches had not 2.5, 3 weeks ago stepped up and stopped having services. And that's tough to do. I try to go to church every Sunday. We've gone online, but that's tough to do for our community, I know. And even a lot of the elderly still don't get to go online, but I encourage you to do so. So in the end, it'll be our community and our community partners that are the heroes here. So I'm just asking that our public not continue to push the envelope in terms of what you can do. Do only the essential. I'm begging you. Our law enforcement cannot pull everybody over. We simply can't rely on our law enforcement. They're stretched. They're doing what they have to do on a normal basis in terms of crime and the other things they do. And adding this burden to them is an unreasonable request, I believe. So with that, I continue. I ask our citizens, especially those in District 1, turn it up a notch, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say, of course, this COVID-19 pandemic has definitely changed the way we go to market. It has changed the way that we do business. It has absolutely changed the way that we interact and communicate and assemble with each other. And I am just a firm believer that if we continue as, local officials, working with all of our government officials, including our state officials, this too shall pass. And I believe from what I have just observed within my own self, it looks like it is bringing everyone on one accord. It's bringing more online presence. It's really keeping people cognizant and conscious of being aware of even some of the things that I believe that we should have already been doing, like washing our hands, disinfecting things. Those are some things that I believe that we really should have been doing already. And of course, staying at home, I believe is definitely going to help us slow down this virus, or prayerfully it will put an end to this virus as quickly as we possibly can. We don't know how long it's going to last. And so I think if we as the local government continue to meet, work together, and as we get updated data and updated information, we may have to come back and make several changes or amendments to, our current shelter at home. But I as well ask as many citizens as they possibly can please stay at home unless you just have to go out, of course, to the grocery store, to the doctor, or things like that. I even know my church personally, we've gone to online. And so it has been a great way of trying to really keep people from being exposed to this virus. We know that the cases are going to increase because now more and more tests are being readily available to our hospitals and our doctors' offices. I generally try to keep an update. Of course, my wife works in the medical profession. She manages a wellness practice. And so I kind of listen to her and hear what's going on. And she's trying to give me updates as much as we possibly can. So now we're seeing the numbers increase because we now have more tests, like the quick test that they can take. I know before the doctor's offices got the test, they were basically utilizing just taking their blood, sending their blood off the labs to kind of find out if they're positive. But now, we have those tests where they can find out right on the spot. And I think now that we have those tests, we're definitely going to see the numbers increase. But as a community, if we really adhere to that shelter in place or shelter at home ordinance, I think we can really try to move beyond this as quickly as we possibly can, or whenever, we can kind of get it under control. So I think everybody is coming together. When you go to the grocery stores, they now have spaces. Can you please stand on this space while you're standing in line? So, they're even, pushing their practicing that social distancing. Having their signs, I think, on the businesses will be excellent to have as well. Sanitizing everything, I think, is great. And so I think if we just come together and rally together as a community and really be there for each other, I think we're going to get through this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you as well.
Hey guys, next meeting I'm gonna have my clock with me. Commissioner.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Commissioner Schultz, you next.
I think everything that I would want to say has been said. I just want all of us to keep each other in prayer and keep our community, keep praying for our community, because this is hard on all of us. It's not just, it's hard on every single one of us, and we're all in this together, and we need to just keep holding each other up, encouraging each other, reaching out to each other, making sure that we're checking on each other, and we'll get through this. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look here. Well, first of all, everything that we do, every breath that we breathe, every step that we make, it's all by the mercy and the grace of God. And I'm a firm believer of that. But when we come together as a community, think of just how much no better it could be. We could beat this virus. We could beat a heap of other issues that have possibly divided our thinking. They could be brought together. And so I'm just praying, and I'm trusting in God that He would direct not only my path, but change a lot of hearts and direct the path of all of us. That's what it's all about. Trusting in Jesus. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank y'all for a good meeting tonight. I'm glad we modified the ordinance consistent with the City of Covington. I think those changes are reasonable and are necessary to deal with this problem that we've got. We'd like for y'all to remember and pray for the graduating class of 2020, because this has disrupted their lives. And I don't know how that's going to work out for everybody, but everybody as a senior in high school looks forward to graduating, and it looks like this year is going to be a whole lot different for them when we cut off. So just remember those seniors that are graduating.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Curry, you have anything?
No, sir. Thank you. Just everybody stay safe and wash your hands.
Thank you, sir. Guys, I want to take an opportunity to, as the chairman of this board, I have heard 5 people tonight that care about their community express that in their own way. And thank you for caring about this community. Also, there's a community of Nelson Heights who are in pain tonight. There's a family that's in pain, 2 families in pain. Let's keep them in our prayers. Not only them, but as a community in whole that's dealing with this COVID-19 has took us away from our norm and put us in a place that none of us want to be in. Our life has been changed in a lot of ways. Our daily activity has been changed. And that has to be uncomfortable for a lot of people. But this virus is serious. I see a lot of posts on Facebook that I won't respond to. This thing is serious. People are losing their lives. Not even 10 minutes from the Newton County line, in Rockdale County, people have lost their lives. And guys, that could be our community. We can wake up tomorrow and that could be our community, where we have lost someone to this virus. So I thank the board tonight for putting things in place. This community, not only this board, but this community, for putting things in place that want to keep our community safe. Everybody won't like it, but it's for the best it's for the best of this community. So guys, thank you tonight. I love this community, and I know you guys do as well. And I don't have anything else, so I seek a motion that we adjourn tonight.
Make a motion to adjourn. This is Schultz.
Second, Commissioner Mason.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Schultz and second by before I adjourn tonight, let me make one more statement. Guys, do not forget about the census. Today is the big day. Everything is getting kicked off, so please remind your family, your friends. Don't forget about the census. We need this. It'll be great for our community, our school system. But there is a motion on the floor tonight made by Commissioner Schultz and second by Commissioner Mason that we adjourn. If there's no more discussion, we are adjourned.